Hey guys, Andy N, spoken label, back in the house. Sunday evening, bit warmer today, but it's still a bit bloody cold. So, anyway, what have I done? Wonderful part of the world today, Doncaster, and I've got a lady with me, and I've just worked this out before actually, and we'll come on to them in a minute. But I first met my guest today, Kate Jenkinson, in person last year when she was one of the supports for Clive Osmond's fantastic show at Randy Horton's night in Stockport. But I'd seen you round, Kate, and on the Zoom thing,
Yeah,
probably at the beginning of lockdown, wasn't it? Does that sound about right to you?
absolutely right. Yeah, I think I was doing some poetry workshops, and there was an open mic that Scott Coe attended, and I heard Scott's performance poetry, and I kind of messaged him and said, "Are there any more nights like this during the lockdown?" And he said, "Yeah, loads." And that's when he introduced me to Beehive and Like a Block from the Blue, and then I just got into the scene. I think during lockdown, there was something on nearly every night. It was just brilliant. So yeah,
Yes. Yeah, it was a fascinating time back then. You think about it, it's 4 years ago now, wasn't it, as well,
I
really?
know.
So it's
Can't
got
believe it.
like that, yeah. It did like it was like I said, told you before, like I've been around live circuit for some years before, and me
Yeah.
and Amanda, the wife, of course, we had a quite a good headline set up actually in Sale, which we'll come on
Yeah.
to in a minute because you've got family down in Sale,
We
bizarrely enough.
have, yeah.
Yeah, but then it all got put onto Zoom literally overnight, the night before it was due to happen. And it was
Yeah.
absolute just chaos because I remember that. But then we did our first night Speak Easy on Zoom, and we had about 300 people trying to log on to the Zoom room.
Oh my goodness.
And it crashed it.
Yeah.
It crashed it. It crashed it. Oh, God.
I'm not surprised.
It was just
Wow.
absolutely carnage. But then we both found that he said there were so many nights just setting up, moving on to Zoom, weren't there? So,
Yeah. It was
and he said,
brilliant.
yeah, it was great fun back those days. And it was like, you're right. We were doing me and the man to what, 3 a week, 4 a week
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't leave the flat because I'm diabetic.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
So
so, yeah,
not
so,
well, I mean, I just did workshops. I even developed some of my own workshops for my friends as well. And that's an interesting story I can tell you about later. But yeah, I just loved it. It was when I got back into the poetry scene, big style.
yeah, it was a fascinating time, really, like I said. But yeah, now obviously we better backtrack yourself, and obviously I know
Yes.
from sources, that's a good way of putting it, which we'll reveal more in a minute. Right.
Sources.
Yeah, a source. I'll do it that way then. Keep the audience guessing. But
Yeah.
I know you started writing when much younger, didn't you? Then it's come back to you at a different stage in your life, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I loved creative writing at school. It was my favorite thing. But I got put off by several teachers, and I was also good at science and I loved biology. So I just carried on the science route when I went to university, and I just kind of left the poetry and spoken word stuff behind. Um, I went in for a competition and got some critical feedback that was really not helpful, and I thought I don't need to put myself in this position. So yeah, I carried on writing though, Andy. I've
Mm.
always enjoyed going to workshops, usually face to face. That was my
Same,
way of
same.
yeah, having a good time.
Yeah, the same. But it's great when you do online workshops, but it's a different sort of feel, I think, when you do them in person. Because
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I've run ones over the years in person. I've done them on Zoom as well. It's interesting experience.
They're different. They're very different. Yeah.
Yeah, so but like I said before, now we'll tell people next then how you actually told me to research you, and I didn't
Yeah.
even know you'd done one of these. That's even better on it. So
Oh,
earlier on
I
today,
know. So
So you did a TED talk a couple of years ago, and he sent me the link over before, which is brilliant. So
yeah, I did. Yeah.
tell us about that.
So what happened? So I run my own business and have done since 2016, and I love to network with people. I love meeting new people, and I met somebody who runs networking events. Basically, lived just behind me in Warrington when I lived in Warrington, and she said she wanted to get a TEDx license for Warrington, and asked me to put in a an application to be one of the first speakers at the first Warrington TEDx. and there were
Wow.
112 applications, and it was a competitive process. And I basically, because I'm so passionate about poetry, said, well, I want to be the voice of poetry in business. And that was my kind of big idea for TEDx. And I got selected and I did a TEDx talk. And she waited until after the lockdowns to run the event, and it ran in 2022. So yeah, I've done a TEDx talk.
Wow. Now, obviously, I said I've done them myself. I told you that before, but mine was done on
Yeah.
Teams at the edge of
Yes.
end of lockdown. It was not in person, certainly, but
Yeah.
mine had basket for people tuning. But that was a terrifying experience on doing that on Teams. But
Yeah.
how big a crowd was it for you to do it in person over in Wales?
So when you run your first TEDx event, they cap it at 100 people. But I mean, that's 100 people sitting down. Then there's all the volunteers and all the support. So there's probably about 120 people in the room. And it was on a big stage at the Parr Hall in Warrington. And I had to remember my whole talk, which was terrifying, seriously. Even in the dress rehearsal on the same day, I still couldn't remember part. I've got a really little funny story I can tell you about this actually,
Please,
Andy.
yes, please do, please do, please
So
do. Yeah.
a lot of people don't know this, but it makes me laugh. There was a section of my talk that I just couldn't remember the order of it. And because of my brain being very different from a lot of people, it remembers acronyms. So when I was learning to pass tests at school, I've got no visualization, but I can remember words and acronyms. And so I thought, is there an acronym that will help me remember this bit in my talk? So I looked at all the first letters of the sentences and they spelt pisser. So I thought, I won't forget that.
No,
So I'm
no.
stood on the stage going through this part of my talk going Pisser, so I could
Oh,
nobody could see that.
oh, dear,
Um,
dear, dear. Yeah, that can only happen to you, that
yeah,
game. Brilliant.
so I did it
But
almost word perfect, and of course they edited out the only bit that I couldn't
yeah,
remember.
oh yeah, completely. So yeah, obviously, like you said before, since then, obviously, I know you've done spoken word on person and in obviously on Zoom and stuff, and I don't really don't think you've done it in
Yes.
Teams, but that itself to me is a big difference altogether. And did you find that a really different experience? What's happened to you since, really, we spoken word?
Well, I think because, well, before lockdown, I'd started to go to some events in Liverpool and do slams. And I've always had to sort of refer to my poetry and read it from, something printed out. So in person, I'd be probably a bit more nervous than doing it online because, you can read it without people knowing you're reading it. So that always helped. Um, but it's a different experience, Andy. When you're doing it online, you can't really gauge the reaction. And I do like to sort of feel the mood of the room. So that
Yeah,
is just a whole different experience when you're actually there. You can pace your poem according to the responses that you get. So yeah, it's just a different experience, and I like both of them. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. No, I agree completely. They are everything you do. Like I've done all kinds of things on my side of things, but we'll go on that another day. Yeah, but I do agree with you. It's
yeah,
fascinating experience indeed of it. Now, I want to move on next because obviously, like you've definitely changed a few gears recently, haven't you? Because with a wonderful Ashley Edge, who had Peter
yeah,
kind of spoken label, has been on twice, Ashley, as well.
yeah.
But yeah, now the pair of you now running, aren't you? Your own open mic night, Prickly Pear.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Tell us about what made you both. I know how you both first met.
yeah.
Ashley, yeah, I know what Ashley's like. Ashley told me the full story, but you could tell people like yourself what in a minute. Well, tell us about what made you want to do Prickly Pear then.
So it all started out last year when I decided I was going to do National Poetry Writing Month, but rather than follow somebody else's prompts, I was going to make my own prompts up.
Yeah,
And I made them up based on the theme of neurodiversity. And it was the first month that I actually managed to do poetry writing every day. And Ashley responded to several of those prompts. And at the end of that, I got such a good response, both from Facebook, people contributing poetry, and believe it or not, LinkedIn, which is where I'm also active. I decided to do an open mic for people who wanted to share their neurodiversity poetry. and I wanted to have two features at that event. Ashley was a feature, and Lauren Ruddock was a feature,
Hmm.
and they both, you know, and it was such good fun. Ashley and I just decided to keep doing it and call it, rename it, but make sure that it was for people with either hidden disabilities or disabilities. We wanted it to be an accessible platform, and we wanted to make sure we created a really safe space for people so that they could share this type of poetry. And that was the original idea behind it, following those neurodiversity prompts. And of course, that'll be almost a year come April.
It's terrifying, isn't it? Because
I
yeah,
know.
well, we better make people aware what we're talking about with April here. 'Cause April is National Poetry Writing Month, and that's
That's
what
right.
we know. Now, I first started that. Oh my good grief, about 10 years ago now. Would you believe?
Yeah.
And the first 2 years I did it, I followed all the prompts, and it
Yeah.
was absolute bloody nightmare. It was.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the end of it, I was like that. My hair was going grey. It was almost falling out.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And I struggled because I don't know, the neurodivergent brain, sometimes people would put a prompt out there and I go, it doesn't inspire me at all.
Yeah, well,
So
I'm the
that's,
same. I'm in the same
yeah,
boat as you, and it was
yeah.
stressing me out because I'm diabetic as well. So by the end of it, after the second year, I said,
You
"Bad
were
man,
ill.
I was
Yeah,
nearly ill," and I thought I'm not
yeah,
doing it again. So after that, I've always followed my own prompts on that.
absolutely.
Last
Best
couple of
idea.
years, I've tried to do themes, and it
Oh,
was
right.
like do my own themes like you did. And this year, I'm going to do sonnets. I'm going to try and write
Oh, okay.
30 theme you don't like spring-based sonnets.
I don't know. Listen, I'm a biologist. I've got nothing against nature. I love it. I just find that a lot of poetry that just focuses on that, because I've got no visual imagery, so I can't, it's like I can't see it.
Yeah, no, it's my case. I've done about 3 sonnets in my life before this.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, let's get it out of my system. Let's go and write
Challenge yourself.
30 of the buggers. Last couple of years, I've done haikus, and haikus I'm pretty good at now. They're
Yeah.
quite straightforward, but not sonnets. Oh, no, 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 no.
Ooh.
I
Well, good
know.
luck with
So,
that.
yeah, well, back to you. Less of me, more of you, right? So, now, okay, somewhere else we want to talk about next is you've got a book on the way, haven't you, as well?
Well, yes, actually. So the collaboration with Ashley continues. So we promote all of the Prickly Pear events through Ashley's Poetic Edge, and Ashley is setting themselves up as a small independent publishing press now, and I am going to be the first published poet through that, and I'm pulling together a collection
Hmm.
that Ashley's helping edit and is doing a brilliant job actually. And so yeah, sometime towards the end of this year, hopefully for October, we're aiming for October. That'll be out there and available.
Fingers crossed, definitely. So, and I
Yeah.
know, see, I know you told me already the book is actually currently untitled, but do you have
Yes.
any
Well,
sort of any?
it's got a
Oh,
working title. Yeah. So if you've seen my TEDx talk, in
hmm.
that you'll hear me talk about the end of life regrets and how poetry has helped me be grateful for the life I've got and really have no regrets. And that's the working title of my poetry collection is No Regrets. And I theme it under the 5 potential end of life regrets. But I mean, if you know what they are, why wouldn't you try and live your life so that you don't have regrets, you know? So,
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I said so. No, no, agree. Good luck with
yeah,
it, definitely. So, we're
thank
not,
you.
we're not revealing anymore because on
No
that you can keep
secrets now.
top secret. Yeah. See, now when people notice in me, I am a hard-boiled journalist. This is my deep investigating skills. Mostly because I nagged Ashley about it last
Did
week.
you? You
Yeah.
you found out. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, that's why the constant pestering. So that's very me for you anyway. So, but yeah, yeah, no, seriously, good luck with definitely. So now
Thank you.
there's a couple more things I want to talk about in the first half, really. So, but you told me off mic before that you've got what I like to ask what plans you have next for your creativity, and I know you've got something big. But before we do that, there's something
Yes.
I have forgotten to ask you.
Go on.
Hats.
Oh, hats. Yes,
Yeah, people know you. You're a lady of the hats. If you
this is
see you on
true.
stage or on Teams or Zooms, wherever.
Yep.
Where did that come from?
So when I was very, very
Hmm.
young, and this is the root of this, Andy. I didn't tell you this offline, but my mum was a single mum, and she knew that if she left me in Woolworths trying on hats, she would find me still there because I loved hats when I was younger. I was
Mm.
probably about 5 or 6 or something, and she just needed to do something. I don't know what it was. Anyway, that's where the trying on hats and playing with hats kind of came from. I guess everyone else was down at the sweet counter in Woolworths, but I was in the hat area trying the hats on. And the first poetry open mics that I went to in Liverpool, I was quite nervous, but I wasn't if I wore a hat. The hat gave me courage and it was a symbol of
Oh yeah.
positivity. So, and then since then, I'll be honest, it's just become an obsession. So I just, I just like wearing hats. Um, so yeah, and then being in Doncaster, um, on the market stall, there's a brilliant stall for hats, which is where this one has come from. And the person who made this used to make hats for the likes of Bono and other rock stars. So, I mean, basically, this is my inner rock star coming out here. So,
Fair enough. I like it. Sounds good to me, definitely. So now,
yeah,
another thing we did touch on before, and this is I see how organised I am tonight,
you
i.e.,
are
not,
organised.
not,
Oh,
not because I've forgotten things. We trouble was, as a good tip for you, we do podcasts. When you speak to people that you know a fair bit, like we've talked a fair bit, and
yeah,
then we talk for 20 minutes before we start pressing the record button. We forget to mention things.
the
Now,
things, yeah.
yeah, you mentioned before to me, before we go into the closing bits, is your parents are writers, aren't they? So did that make an influence on you as a writer when you were younger?
Well, my mum encouraged me. So I'd write poetry when I was younger and I'd share it with my mum and she loved to listen to it. So, she encouraged me and she writes now and she was part of Women Writers in Manchester.
Oh yeah.
So, and she's written a book, Andy, as well, and self-published it. So, um, which has a little bit of a poetry in, but that's not the reason she writes. She writes because it's for well-being. And so that writing has always been just a way to um, process stuff and kind of,
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
keep ourselves well, really. Yeah.
Brilliant. No, no,
So,
fair play. Fair play.
and I got back into going to open mics because my stepdad, who also writes humorous poetry, came along with me, and he went on the mic first, and then I followed after him, and that was when I got back into open mics proper, about 6 or 7 years ago.
Good
So
to
yeah,
me. Right, okay. We'll change gears. What this back to the schedule
back
line
to
of
the
questions.
future.
Back to the future, the scheduled line of questions. I should have talked to you a minute ago, but yeah. Now you tell me obviously you've got some plans coming forward, haven't you, about your business side of your things you want to do.
Yes,
Tell us
yeah.
about that then.
So poetry is so much more than just a pastime. I think it can add real value to organisations. We hear a lot about the well-being and mental health problems in organisations, and I believe that workshops that use poetry or help people to write their own poetry even can do a lot to bring human-centered leadership into organisations. And so I've got a belief that poetry is leadership. It's there, we get things done through words. And if you're a good leader and you understand the power of poetry and how it can help you understand the human condition better, then you're going to be a better leader. So I do workshops and I use poetry in those workshops. And I
Hmm.
developed them during lockdown with my friends, and now I've worked them up to a point where I'm doing them inside organizations.
Ooh. Tell us a bit more
So,
about how that works then. You're doing them inside organisations.
so somebody may be doing like a leadership program and they want to do something which helps people connect to their emotions and maybe get them to be comfortable with uncertainty. And a lot of people are not comfortable with poetry. So it's a really good vehicle to sort of have them do something that puts them out of their comfort zone, but in a safe way. Because basically all they're doing
Hmm.
is just writing words and sharing them. But people are really surprised, leaders are really surprised when they write a haiku and it's condensed something about their own resilience, that they hadn't realised was important to them. So I get them to do free writes. I get them to listen to poems that are on the theme of, say, resilience or positive relationships. And it just really takes their brain in a different direction. It takes them away from efficiency and problem solving to opportunity and human-centered leadership. It's brilliant.
No, this is great. No, great. Definitely, it's a good look with it. Definitely. So, right,
Thank you.
we'll do the wrap up point. I want to give you plenty of time for your poetry today. So,
Yes.
obviously, that your book's not out yet, so people
No,
have to wait for that one.
they
That link
do.
for another day. Yes, well, keep them hungry, keep them keen.
I
But
know.
where's the best social media contacts for you then? Obviously, if you unite, you do Ashley first. That's mostly through Ashley. But tell
Yes.
people about how to do that first of all.
Yeah, so all the prickly pear stuff is done through Poetic Edge. Ashley Edge's Eventbrites and ticketing is through their um, contact details. I'm a bit tricky really because I'm a business poet. I tend to put a lot of my stuff on LinkedIn, which is not a common place for poets to hang out, but I put stuff out there. I've got a website under my business name which has got videos, Pecha Kucha talks, and all that sort of stuff, which I love doing. And that's nextstephr.co.uk. And then I do something called the spoken word finale, which is a summary at the end of events. And so you can also find stuff under www.spokenwordfinale.co.uk as well. So
You're a
there's
lady
some
indeed.
stuff on YouTube, but it's just scattered all everywhere, Andy, if I'm honest.
I'm going to say nothing. I'm no better, right? So I'm going to say with that, definitely.
It's
So,
scattered throughout social media.
yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're on Facebook anyway. I know that already
I'm on
because
Facebook, yeah. So if people wanted to get in touch about anything I've said today, yeah, just message me there.
are you on any other social medias like Instagram or Twitter?
Yes, so I've come off Twitter because it's just a toxic place to be.
Yeah, it's not my favourite.
I used to like it, but it's just yeah, it's too much anyway to have all these social media. So seriously, LinkedIn is my place that I'm on every day. Facebook, and then my Facebook links with Instagram. So I do go on to Instagram occasionally as well.
Fair play to you then. Right, we'll wrap up part one, folks. See you in
Okay.
2 minutes. And we're not decided yet how many poems Kate's going to do for us. So this will be sorted out in just deep discussion in between the parts. So see you all soon. Thanks again, Kate.